Let's have a real discussion about real estate and investments from an average guy. Now, I joined the Air Force in 1980, making $400 a month. True story, but I've always worked my whole life. I've been working since I was 10 years old, and I've always been a saver. I bought my first house at age 24, so I'm not rich, just an average guy. And it was in Summerville, South Carolina. I paid $45,000 for that house. And a lot of people were against it because I was a single guy in the military. But I had $20,000 in the bank because, again, I'm a saver. And all this people telling you, oh, join my seminar, give me $200. You know, you can buy a house with no money down. That's all crap. Don't give your money to anybody. Okay? Use your own common sense. All the knowledge is right here on YouTube. And I'll tell you everything I've done. Because I've bought 15 different houses. I currently now have 4. So I've sold most of them. I have 2 rentals that bring in, well, let's say I think one brings in $1,500 a month. The other one brings in $1,000 a month. One's in Savannah and one's in North Carolina. I'm in South Carolina. And my daughter, we bought her a $500,000 house in Colorado, and she pays her mother $2,000 a month, which keeps the money in the family, which is a smart move. And I'll get deeper and deeper into each individual house I ever bought. But the first house I ever bought, Summerville, South Carolina, for $45,000. All my supervisors told me, don't do it, we'll get you a mutual fund, this and that. But the old theory was, if you're going to stay anywhere for 2 to 5 years, it's cheaper to buy and then sell it or rent it when you leave. So that's what I did through a 20-year military career. You know, instead of wasting all my money, I invested. And actually, it was my 3rd assignment when I bought that house in Charleston. I was at Florida, always thinking about real estate. I went to London, outside of London for a couple of years. I was thinking about buying houses in a foreign country, which I knew friends that did. And then they broke up with their British girlfriend and ended up giving it to them. But my 3rd assignment was Charleston, and that's where I bought a house. And like I said, I had $20,000 in the bank at the time because I rented rooms to a rental house I lived in England. And that's how I got money to have investments. And when I walked into a real estate office, you know, that's a big hint right there, folks. You want to learn about real estate? Become a realtor. I am not a realtor. I always have to use a realtor. But if you want to learn about real estate, go to community college, learn how to become a realtor, and do it the hard way. There's no fast, easy money in life. Because if everyone could get rich fast, they would. These people selling you these, you know, $200 to take the seminar, they're getting rich off of you giving them $200 and everybody else that's taking the seminar. You know, all the information now is on the internet. It's all free. I've bought short sales. I've bought foreclosures, and I've always used a realtor. And you have to shop around for a good realtor that knows what they're doing and are fairly honest. But in reality, trust no one but yourself and your own research. So after I bought that house in Summerville, South Carolina, or Charleston, South Carolina, I transferred out of the military because I wasn't happy at Charleston because I went from one of the highest paying military bases outside of London, where they're giving me good money, and I went to Charleston, where they were probably the lowest paying base because they wanted me to eat the free food and a free place to stay on the base, which got me in trouble a few times because I went to the base commander, which is like the governor, and saying, I lived off base before, I want to live off base again, and they just couldn't justify it because they had so much space available on base. And I also got in trouble there too, where, all right, you know, make me have a room on the base, it's going to be my little condo, so if I want to drink at the base club, I can go crash at the little condo on base. And then the first sergeant gets mad, because now I'm occupying space, because at the time I was an E5, I'm entitled to my own room, and they wanted to take my room. And I said, no. Which isn't a good thing to do in the military, but I'm entitled to it. You either pay me or I'm keeping the room. So I didn't get on the best side of that guy. But They still didn't pay me. But I was losing money. I was probably making, maybe $1,200 a month. And my expenses were like $1,300 a month. But again, I had $20,000 in the bank. I bought the house. It had a second mortgage on it. When I talked to the realtor, she said, an angel must have sent you to me, because they dropped the price down $15,000 and they had a second mortgage. And I assumed their mortgage and they carried a second, and I was paying them, and I always pay my bills. And when I left Charleston, I went to Miami, because again, I was in the military. I found a way to, what's the highest paying job in the military? I can go recruiting duty, and they give me rent money, food money, plus an extra $275 incentive pay. So that's the route I went. And I get deeper into those stories too, where commander didn't recommend me, first sergeant didn't like me. So I just went back to the recruiting team saying, commander didn't recommend me. The guy just laughed and says, they don't recommend the best. And I told them I'd go anywhere in Florida but Miami. But you're in the military, what do you think they sent me? North Miami Beach, Florida. I said, I'd go anywhere but Miami. And they said, oh, that's not Miami, that's North Miami. I said, okay. So I'm on my way to Paradise. And I bought another house there. So that's house number 2. And it was in Miami. Actually, it was in Miramar. And I was there. Life was good. Making good money. Probably get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting home at 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon. This nice lady next door used to call me Mr. Magoo, because I was like clockwork. Up early and gone and come back late, but extremely reliable, always working. And then I bought house number 3. And it had a screened-in pool, which was nice. I mean, I was living a life in Miami, Florida. I was perfectly happy. Spent 5 years there. I was in paradise. But again, I'm still in the military, and that was my, 4th assignment. And somehow I think I ticked somebody else off. Well, what else is new? Commander calls me up, says, you want to go to Michigan or Indiana? I'm going, oh my God. I guess I'll go to Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm more of a city person. So now I've got a rental in Charleston, South Carolina, and 2 rentals in Miami. Well, plus I had my girlfriend at the time, my future wife, my wife. And she actually had ended up with 3 houses. I met her, she only had 1. And then she had a house in South Miami and a couple in northern part of Miami. And then I went to Indianapolis. I bought another house. Nice big house. And usually what I did was, they're like estates or older folks that died, and people are willing to deal. And also when I bought a house, I thought, you can leave all the crap inside it, I'll take care of it. That house in Indianapolis was an engineer's house. So it had all the furniture in it. I mean, they were like California king beds. It was a huge 2-story house with a basement. It had a safe in the basement. And the story was that engineer, Al Capone once used him for something. So of course, in my fantasy world, I'm thinking this safe's got something good in it. But eventually, somehow I bumped into an ex-daughter-in-law or something. And she came in, we were just talking. I guess she used to live at the house at one time or knew about the house. And I asked about that safe down there. And she says, well, the combination used to be underneath it or something. And, we looked for it and couldn't find it. So eventually I paid a locksmith, and there wasn't anything in the safe. But it came with a ping pong table. It came with furniture. It came with all sorts of stuff. And, I'd clean it up. Not a problem. So, and eventually I married my wife in Indianapolis, and then I bought a duplex. I think I paid $58,000 for a duplex. And then further on, I bought the duplex across the street. So now I've got 2 duplexes. The main house I'm living in Indianapolis, the Charleston house, and 2 houses in Miami. Plus the wife might have 1 or 2 houses still. But, we kept our finances separate. She can do her thing. I can do my thing. So from Indianapolis, I did 3 years there. I went to Savannah, Georgia. Bought another house in Savannah, Georgia. I also had a child in Indianapolis too. And from Savannah, I bought another house. I sold the house in Indianapolis. Actually, the realtor bought it. But I still have the 2 duplexes up there. And when I'm in Savannah, I bought a quadplex. And of course, I'm not paying high dollar. I think I paid $106,000 for the quadplex. It was probably in 1998, 1999. But not the best. I'm not buying these properties in the best neighborhoods. Because what can I afford? Okay? And I also bought another house. If anyone knows Savannah, it was close to River Street, which is the resort area. And I still own that little house in Savannah. It's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,300 square feet. And it pulls in $1,000 a month. And that's how you beat inflation. Because, I felt bad. When I first bought that house, I rented it to a couple for $500 a month and never changed the rent. They never complained. They never asked for anything. If a hot water heater went out or something like that, or a stove, you'd have to replace that. But they stayed there 15 years, paid that house off, because I only paid $32,000 for that house. And then, when they died, they actually died, I put another, $20,000, $30,000 into it to fix it up and rented it again for $750. Now, these people in there, they've been in there for years. And because inflation's gone up, the price has gone up and everything, we've jacked the rent up to $1,000. And they've been there for years. I felt bad doing that, but costs, I still pay taxes and insurance and everything else, and everything's going up, so I had to go up on the rent there. So now in Savannah, I've got, 2 houses in the quadplex, plus in Indianapolis, I had 2 duplexes, plus in Miami, I had a couple houses, plus Somerville, South Carolina, I still had a house. Okay, and then I got out of the military, and I bought another house in, I'll say Charlotte, North Carolina. Actually, it's Kannapolis. So I bought that house, and I don't know what I paid for it. Probably close to $100,000, somewhere in that. That's usually my ballpark range at that time. And then I sold that house and bought into a neighborhood where the doctors were. And again, this one might have been a foreclosure because it had some broken windows. And of course, I was working for a Fortune 100 corporation at this time. And when I sold the house, I had $100,000 in the bank now, but I changed jobs from Fortune 100 corporation. I was making $65,000 when I left, back to a government job making $35,000 a year. This was 2002. And it's like, when I'm in the process of buying a house, again, I had $100,000 I'm putting down on this $200,000 house. And the bank wants to give me a hard time. And the banker lady, she was nice and realistic, and says, when I started dealing with you, you were making $65,000 a year. Now you changed jobs making $35,000 a year. But I'm telling her, yeah, but long term, I'm getting a pay raise every year. I'm going to be back up to that in 2 or 3 years. Says, it throws the numbers off on this and that. So I guess I ended up getting like a 5-year balloon payment or something, which is risky business. But remember, I had $100,000 down on this house. I'm not losing it. But, it had a few broken windows, and one bathroom wasn't totally finished, or they started remodeling. But again, my wife and I are handy. My wife can do the tile work. She's a better plumber than I am. She's a better carpenter than I am. I think I've got her on the electrical side. So again, if you don't have any skills, and I give all my skills thanks to the United States Air Force. Okay, so again, I've got 3 college degrees, all because of the Air Force. I was in law enforcement, teach you what's right is right, what's wrong is corrected. And then I went civil engineering. That's where I learned the electrical. It was a 16-week course on more or less electricity. Heating, air conditioning, control systems. It was a great job, and I think the Air Force eventually did away with it. But from there, then I went to recruiting duty, because that's where the money was. And I'm going to go where the money is. Okay, so where was I at? Kannapolis, and I went to the doctors, where the doctors lived in Concord. And then I also bought another house with a pool house. And because the realtor knew me, she knew what I was always looking for, a handyman special, something I can fix up. Because when I bought that house, the pool was black. It was scary because neighbors said, the people in there used to have big snakes and stuff like that. And I'm going, there better not be a big snake in that black pool. But eventually cleaned it out and rented that pool house out but when you're renting, you have to be careful. You have to know what you're doing. Other people, friends, tried to mimic the way I do things. And they got themselves in big trouble because they think, when life is good and money's flowing in, that life is great. And then they're going to go buy themselves a Mercedes. But then when they get a big bad tenant that tears the place up and they're not getting rent in, and then they got to pump $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 into it to fix it up, they don't have the money. And then they go bankrupt. You have to be a saver. You have to use common sense. You're not going to get rich quick. You have to be like Warren Buffett, one of the richest men in the world, said, everyone and anyone can get rich. It's a slow, gradual way of getting rich. Not everybody wants to get rich quick. And I've had losses, not in real estate. I've had bad tenants that tore stuff up and destroyed things, and you just have to deal with it and adjust. And there's major tax advantages of having real estate. And again, with inflation, this is January 2024 now. Inflation is still high, but that's how you're counteracting inflation, is because if everything goes up, you can jack the rents up, which that's just the way it is. So from 3 houses in Charlotte, from then we built a house in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And I can tell you, builders rip you off tremendously. We bought a 3-acre lot for $30,000. Of course, my wife did, because she does a lot of things that without talking to me, because we were looking at all sorts of places and she just found the best deal and pulled the trigger. Because usually I'm hesitant and I'm conservative. And we built a house there. We took out a construction loan for $250,000. And we built a 6,300 square foot all brick house on 3 acres with an in-ground fiberglass pool, and bought a brand new car, an SUV, for $28,000. Pool was $20,000. The lot was $30,000. Okay, so to build that 6,300 square foot all brick house, it was nothing but a big rectangle. We designed it. We took it to a guy that made blueprints. It cost us $150,000 to build that house. And it was big and it was huge. And again, $250,000 new construction loan that caught the land, the pool, the new vehicle, and eventually we sold it for $405,000 because we moved to where we're at now. But also on the way, and my wife bought another townhouse without telling me, but I think she paid $60,000. Eventually sold that for, I think she said she sold it for $135,000. Or actually, I probably put a listing out. Now, I'm not a realtor, but I can put it on Craigslist or multiple listing services. I've done a lot of that too. Where I'll put it out there and I'll sell by owner. And of course, the listing agent, I'll give them 3%, and they do all the work. Saves me a lot of money, and you can't beat it. So, but if you're going to build a house, you make sure you have a strong marriage, because you'll kill each other. And also, let me tell you another good story. I bought a house in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, or I bought a townhouse. That was a short sale. I think the lady died, and the bank, we negotiated, and we paid, I think, $105,000 for a townhouse that needed work. Okay, I think it might have been flooded out a little bit too. And how did we come up with that kind of money? I sold my first house it was my first house, Charleston, South Carolina, Somerville. I paid $45,000 for it. I think I sold for $117,000. Of course, after we fixed it, because we put a new garage door up. The wife tiled the whole place, repainted it, appliances, probably put $20,000-$30,000 into it. But of course, it was paid off. Pay your bills, never late. I've got my feelings hurt quite a few times when I want to refinance and a bank tells me no. I'm not happy, because usually I have the money and I've got excellent, outstanding credit. You have to guard your credit. But the Chapel Hill townhouse, let me tell you that story. And I'll get deeper and deeper. Maybe I'll do a story on each individual property, because this is just a general overview. My daughter was going to college. She's got her PhD now, or PharmD, pharmacist. She did it in 7 years. When they go to college, they've got to live in a dorm the first year, and that's like $6,000. If you're going to pay $6,000 a year, here's a big hint, write this down, you might as well buy a place there. We bought a townhouse for $105,000. She rented rooms, which helped pay for college. Thank you very much. She always had a job, helped pay for college. Thank you very much. This is the only kid I know that made money in college. But so she had jobs. She had more than one job, and got good grades. And she rented rooms in the townhouse. Usually I found them, and we tried to keep her out of it. So they'd pay her, but they had to come through me or the mother and father to, get in there. And we didn't want party girls or any of that nonsense. And that's how I wrote up the ads. Someone that's more into academics than playing and partying. And of course, you get what you're looking for. So we sold that house for $320,000 when she finished school, and she got her first job in Colorado. Somehow, I love her mother to death, I love my daughter to death. That was my first house, Charleston. Bought this house, got $320,000, and somehow they decided that my daughter was entitled to $100,000, my wife was entitled to $100,000, and I got my original investment back. I said, yeah, that's fair. Not, but that's just the way of life. So my daughter was renting a house in Colorado because it's her first job, see if it worked out, see if everything's okay there. She's paying $1,400 a month. And of course, real estate bubbles up high. It's gonna, keep climbing. Rents are gonna keep going up. So we bought a house. It was $460,000 for my daughter. $320 of it came from selling the townhouse. And my wife tapped into her 401k. That's why my daughter's got to pay her back $2,000 a month, but keeping the money in the family. And that's a real smart thing to do. Now, of course, that house is location. It's on top of a mountain, beautiful view, great neighbors. And again, my daughter's a pharmacist, so extremely reliable. And also the house I'm living in now in Myrtle Beach, again, it was more or less an estate sale, where I guess the old guy had dementia. The wife that was washing him just one day dropped dead in the garage. I guess the neighbor might have caught him. And the kid or the people that own the house were out of state. So I bought this house in South Carolina, $310,000. And of course, the wife's always giving me a hard time. And we weren't the top bidder on this house. We didn't get the house. Somebody else got it from us. But a week or 2 weeks later, realtor called us back saying, "You still interested?" The other people backed out. I'm going, well, let me renegotiate. And we got the house for $310,000 with a Lexus in the garage, fully furnished. Because again, I always say, leave the stuff in the house. And it was a negotiation, $310. I think our offer was $300. We decided to give $310, but we put the Lexus. It only had 30,000 miles. It was the original old lady that took it to the dry to get her hair done once a month. It was a true story, because it only had 30,000 miles. It was a beautiful car. And eventually, of course, I sold it. The car, I sold all the contents. So realistically, maybe we paid $290,000 for this house. That's now worth about $500,000. And of course, we're slowly fixing it up. And it needed work. That's why the other people backed out of it. But we've got the talents to fix it. And it's one of the most beautiful, unique houses in the neighborhood. Or, watch some of my other videos. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe. if you like my content, I'll go deeper and deeper into each individual house. You know, like I said, I bought short sales, I bought foreclosures, estate sales, and I'm not an ambulance chaser. I'm not looking for this stuff. I'm just looking for good deals, and I'm always looking for real estate. Right now, the wife's looking for a house in one city in a different state, and I'm looking for another house in another city in a different state. Okay, but the biggest advantage I had was I was in the military, and they forced me to move every 2 or 3 years. Well, they didn't force me, I had choices, but that, you know, gave me options. And I rented houses. I either rent or sell when I left. Like I said, right now, all I have left is the Savannah house. That's paid for. Oh, I didn't even go into the other house in North Carolina on the coast. Yeah, that's rented for like, I don't know, $1,450, $1,500 a month in a gated community. That was going to be the retirement home. But instead, we bought this house in Myrtle Beach because we were going to that North Carolina house, you know, on 4th of July, Christmas, and it was always vacant. So we decided to rent it. It says, let's make some money off it anyway. But right now, all our properties are paid for. Like I said, we only have 4. North Carolina coast, Savannah, Georgia coast, Myrtle Beach coast, which I don't like the idea of 3 houses on the coast, and then my daughter's house in Colorado. But again, if you like the content, I get deeper and deeper into it. Thumbs up, subscribe, and we'll see where else we go from here. Have a great day.